January 30th meeting. We're up and running. We've had a good morning already with a couple of committee sessions, so I want to welcome back all of my trustees who are in and out here. Nicandri, Kress, Balboni, and McKibben. Trustees Pacente and Trainer have joined us remotely via video. As always, the meeting's been scheduled and duly noticed, and hence now I'd like to call this joint meeting of the Power Authority and the Canal Board to order. Agenda's been circulated. We've all had the opportunity to review. Unless there's any questions, I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. All right. Motion carries. First up, in deference to Trustee Balboni's calendar challenges, we're going to have a report out from the Cyber and Physical Security Committee, and then we'll adjourn into an executive session before resuming our full agenda. But Mike, give us a report. We had a great committee meeting, and our initial meeting of an important committee to the organization. Appreciate your willingness to chair that for us, and give us an update if you would.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As you said, this morning we had our first cyber and physical security meeting. Important that we combine these two areas. The Trustee McKendry, McKibben, Trainer, and Chairman Como were in attendance, as well as non-members, Trustee Pacente and Kress. Now, what I want to stress here, given the sensitive nature of the information that we talk about in terms of threat profiles and what other types of challenges any cyber-related utility faces, we went into executive session. That's why, matter of fact, this is the operating protocol for any of these types of topics. So it's very important that we don't give our adversaries the upper hand by talking about things in open session. That's why it's appropriate within the security posture to go into executive session. When we held the public session, we considered reports by Tom Spencer from the Enterprise Risk Group on risk management, reviewed how and where the cyber and physical security fit into the overall enterprise. And that's a very important strategy here at NYPA. And then we heard from Randy Chrisman about the industry trends and cybersecurity initiatives and programs throughout the country and other organizations that NYPA partners with, specifically focusing on vendor management and also leveraging the wide variety of organizations that consider the cyber challenge every minute of every day. And finally, we heard from the Chief Information Security Officer, Kenneth Carnes. We received a presentation on NYPA's security program, which is built upon three key pillars: people, process, and technology. Mr. Chairman, this was a great first meeting. It focuses on a crucial area for the continued security of this organization. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mike. And maybe for point of clarity, if nothing else, don't imply this is the first time as an organization we focused on cyber. It's been part of our broader risk management conversation over the years, but in light of the realities that we all deal with day in and day out, hourly, wanted to ensure we had a sharper focus, and hence formed and convened a separate committee. So very impressed, as always. NYPA continues to distinguish, and confident we will here as well, although, as you say, the challenges are enormous and ever increasing. So anything else? Great. Okay, before we move into open session, said I'd like to kick off the meeting and conduct initial discussions in executive session. So if I could ask for a motion to conduct an executive session pursuant to Section 108 of the Public Officers Law of the State of New York to consult with counsel, and Section 105 discuss matters involving the employment history of a particular person. So moved. Second. Have a second. Great. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. We'll be back with you in a little bit upon completion of executive session. Thank you. Session with a special note that we didn't take any votes. Well, we were in executive session as always, but if I could have a motion to resume the meeting.
I move that we resume the meeting in open
Have a second?
Session.
Second.
And Judge even stood for that. We thank you.
You have.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. We're all notified in advance of contractors and identifying any conflicts, and unless there's been any changes, I think we're in good shape on that count. The agenda has already been approved. First item up there is customary, our consent agenda. Unless anyone has any questions, I'd ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second, thank you very much. Any other questions? Otherwise, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, with that, first up, Mr. CEO, a chance to look back, look ahead, strong 2017, and I know even a better year ahead. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, trustees, staff, and the people who are participating via video to the January board meeting of the New York Power Authority.
I am back in, Joseph.
As customary in January, I start with a little bit of a look back.
Hold on a minute.
Hold on, we got some feedback.
Taking care of it.
Okay. So a little bit of a look back in 2017. So I'll cover our overall performance, some key themes: innovation, our customer solutions business, the stewardship, sustainability, and environmental justice. Well, I'll touch on in my presentation, and the industry leadership that we have taken last year. I can tell you that the Power Authority has never been stronger. We met all of our corporate metrics last year.
Our union is strong.
The state of our authority is strong. Very strong indeed. The DART rate, which is our safety measure, we purposely put a very stretched aspirational goal to emphasize the importance of safety in our operations in the Power Authority and the Canal Corporation. While that's red, I can tell you that we are outperforming the average statistics in the Bureau of Labor and Standards, as well as our peers in the American Public Power Association. Last year was a key year for us. We refreshed our strategy and made sure that the team here at the Power Authority have a unified view of the game plan going forward. And we have put a stake in the ground that it will be powered by, or it will be catalyzed by, digitization. And that digitization will enable us to put the customer in the center of this transformation in our industry, and that we are going to innovate, we're going to create new business models, that in the end, our success will be measured by the success of our customers. With that, we issued a solicitation last year for approximately 400 megawatts of large-scale renewable. It could be wind, solar, biomass, or small hydro. We had a record number of projects in energy efficiency with our customers, largely government buildings across the state, government and local buildings. And in our journey to digitization, we have installed smart meters and sensors in about 7,500. That's actually now closer. It's moving really fast, closer to 11,000 buildings across the state, and we project that we will scale that up to 20,000 in 2020. I mentioned safety before. We covered in our discussion agenda, our committee meeting, physical and cybersecurity, reliability and availability job by our utility operations led by Joe Kessler, and the folks at Canals were really exemplary last year. Compliance, we had a clean bill of health from all of our federal regulators who conducted audit this year, and we continue to increase employee engagement, employee development programs across the board. So that was the
I see you.
that was the Cleveland, and that was the celebration of the bicentennial of the canals. Let me touch on a little bit about sustainability and environmental justice. This was the picture that Trustee McKibben should have been in. She participated in this event, but we're located all over the states. We have 16 power plants. We have long-term contracts with a couple more. Our transmission system is the backbone of New York. So we really operate from Messina to Montauk. And it's important that part of our DNA is that we care about our communities and that we support and we engage with our communities. And that's why we have refreshed under the leadership of Kim Harriman and her team. We really have boosted our sustainability and environmental justice programs, and it's part of everything that we do. So it's embedded in who we are and what we do and what we mean to our neighbors and our communities. Very, very proud of this initiative being revived last year and continuing. Industry leadership, again, under the leadership of Joe Kessler, Saul Rojas, we've been tremendous in providing humanitarian assistance to Puerto Rico. 20 of our best engineers, our MacGyvers, the MacGyvers of NYPA, landed in Puerto Rico a day after Maria to help in the damage assessment. No one was there but us from the U.S. mainland, along with some of FEMA and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We work closely with them. Since that time, when Puerto Rico requested for help from utility workers in the U.S. mainland, Joe and his team organized a delegation of utility workers from the various utilities in New York to go to Puerto Rico and help. And as we sit here today, we have about close to 500 utility workers, 350 trucks. Of that, 40 trucks from NYPA, 30 NYPA employees restoring power in the Metro San Juan area, which is 70% of the demand or load in Puerto Rico, doing tremendous job. We're 80% complete and making great progress in that work. Great sacrifice, again, showing the capacity and the tenacity of our workforce from all over our facilities to help in time of great need in Puerto Rico. So that's my report. Any questions?
How do you look ahead to 18? What are the...
Yeah. Well, I've been, that's a great question, Mr. Chairman. I've been with the Power Authority for 10 years, and if I look at every January since I've been here, this is probably the January where we have never been better positioned, never been stronger, never been more inspired to forge ahead and really implement our mission. We will come back to you with some additional plans that we will layer on top of what we reported to you last month in our December board meeting. We are really looking to optimize our generation and transmission business, which is our core business. But more importantly, we are looking forward to accelerate, expand our initiatives in our customer energy solutions business and also in our project development business, which includes large-scale renewables, energy storage, electric vehicle, and electric vehicle infrastructure. More to come in our March board meeting, which is our annual meeting, as well as our May board meeting for those plans.
Okay.
You're to be commended for the response to the need in Puerto Rico, Gil. It's really important.
Thank you, Judge.
On behalf of the board, for the entire organization, just a phenomenal 2017. Another had a great year. The infamous DART rate aside, someday you'll set a target that's relevant, but yeah, just another outstanding year. The integration of canals, Puerto Rico,
Yeah.
ISOC, all your operational objectives. You know, kudos to you, your leadership team, and the entire organization for a really, really terrific year. And as you said, we're all excited about the position we're in, the opportunities that affords for 2018. So make sure you take a little extra minute to pause and celebrate, recognize, and reward the many who contributed to the success that was 2017. So.
Will do. Thank you very much.
That's enough of that. Back to work. Okay. Subhagya is MIA today, so Tom Spencer, you're pinch hitting?
Yep.
Okay, great. Risk management, thank you. Subhagya at the Super Bowl, or where is he?
He's back home in India.
Oh, okay.
Good morning, Chairman Como, trustees, NYPA staff, and other attendees. Today I'd like to discuss some of the projects the risk management team has worked on and will be working on in the future to advance the risk culture at the New York Power Authority. In tangible terms, when I talk about advancing the risk culture, I mean we want to create an environment where informed and transparent decision making based on risk-reward trade-offs is part of every decision we make. In 2017, we approached this from 3 different angles. First, we asked ourselves what we thought we could do internally to advance the risk culture. How could we leverage external expertise and information? And then finally, how could we increase our resiliency and thereby also making our culture more risk aware? Under the internal advancements category, we established a governance, risk, and compliance framework that incorporates the core risk principles of the ISO 31000 risk management framework. This framework emphasizes greater integration with strategy and other groups across the organization, as well as a tops-down and bottoms-up approach to risk management. We also worked with the Energy Resource Management team to deploy an energy commodity risk management software solution. This tool will be used to provide greater analytical modeling capabilities and for our commodity exposures, and we can now begin to manage our assets on both an individual and portfolio basis. We also performed an operational risk assessment in support of achieving our ISO 55000 certification at St. Lawrence. The ISO 55000 certification is a standard based on best practices in operating and maintaining our assets. In the external involvement and benchmarking category, earlier this year we hosted the large Public Power Council risk and audit meeting and received a lot of positive feedback on that. We also took a leadership role in both the Committee of Chief Risk Officers and Risk Insurance Management Society organizations. By sharing lessons learned and best practices, we are able to advance the risk culture at NYPA. In addition, we enhanced our insurance program by performing a total cost of risk analysis on our across all lines of insurance. We took those results and then benchmarked them against our peers and then identified potential areas of improvement, such as changing our retention levels or modifying our coverage limits. And by increasing our resiliency, we became more culturally aware of disruption-related events. We implemented a business resiliency framework, and as part of that framework, we updated the NYPA and Canal's business continuity plans. These updates were based on business impact analysis, identifying the most critical functions at both the White Plains and site locations, and were distributed at the end of last year. In 2018, we will continue to emphasize the idea of informed and transparent decision-making based on risk-reward trade-offs, while encouraging appropriate risk-taking and a fail-fast philosophy based on the lean startup model. One of the innovative ways we can do this is through business resiliency stress testing. We will test our current and future business models against alternative future scenarios to ensure resiliency. By stress testing, we can identify blind spots and recommend course corrections when and where needed as we undergo the transformation to a fully digital utility. At the center of our strategic vision is customer success, and we can increase the likelihood of customer success by providing value-added services to our customers. We will be examining opportunities to manage our customer assets on an individual and portfolio basis. By using a portfolio approach, we may be able to provide customers greater value in the form of increased risk reduction. In addition, we'll be exploring the development of a risk management services framework, where we could potentially add value by designing custom risk-based solutions that can help our customers manage current and future risk, other than just the traditional commodity risk, looking at things like emerging risk or compliance risk and new technology risk. Finally, through cost leadership, we'll be implementing an EGRC framework using the Governance Risk and Compliance Framework using a Governance Risk and Compliance tool. By implementing this tool, we begin to digitize the risk function, integrating a risk registry across multiple groups for ease of access and have a single source of truth around risk information. It will also allow us to both vertically, horizontally, and diagonally analyze key mitigation strategies, key controls, and key action plans. We can then prioritize the most effective items and determine better resource allocation by using this tool. In addition, we'll continue to reimagine our insurance function. We're continuing to build out our analytical capabilities on the insurance team so we can look at our insurance program in a portfolio fashion instead of just an individual program fashion. By integrating all of our insurance programs, we envision being able to reduce costs while still maintaining appropriate risk coverage levels from a portfolio view. All of these activities support our advancement of a robust risk culture that, again, is centered on informed and transparent decision-making while encouraging appropriate risk-taking and a fail-fast philosophy. So we have a lot on the plate for 2018, but I'm sure the risk team and the folks at NYPA are up to the task. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them right now.
In terms of bringing canals online and risk management and the like, how far up the curve are we relative to meeting NYPA standards expectations? Is that fully integrated? Is it almost there? Have we still got a ways to go?
I think, we still have a ways to go, and to quote more to come on that. One of the things that the Governance Risk and Compliance tool is going to allow us to do is digitize the information. So hopefully we can use that hopefully we will use that as a data repository for both NYPA and canals. So we still have a ways to go. I think we've made a lot of big advancements in that regards. We've worked with a lot of the canals folks and have a regular monthly meeting with the leadership of canals to talk about the risks that they're seeing and how we can best mitigate or handle those.
Okay. Anything else for Tom? All right, thanks very much. Appreciate it, Tom.
Yep.
Bob, you all set?
Ready?
Looks like we finished the year the way you anticipated. Your forecast has come true.
Well, you're stealing my thunder here, Mr. Chairman, but
I was trying to segue while you were making your way up to the podium. I mean,
last year at this time, I think we all remember that our net income was close to zero, and I'm still having PTSD effects from the terms unexpected variance.
Oh, okay.
But this year, what a difference a year makes. So This year
Onward
we're
and upward, Bob. I mean,
Whoa,
that's
what?
how it works, you know? Commercial ops, why don't you jump
yeah
into
skipping
that?
right to that.
There's green arrows.
I hit-
Oh, there's the dart rate. Got to get
Thank
that
you.
in
All
there.
right, excellent.
Always good to make it. Okay.
So anyway, this year is much better. We're all good this year. So I can sit down now.
Okay.
Exactly. Nice and quick.
So this year, this looks very much like the picture in previous meetings. So that's the first good thing. We've had the story has not changed exactly. So our budget going into the year was $77 million in net income. We are going to end the year very close to 117. We're still closing the books and doing our audit, but this is our preliminary year-end results. The story as to how we got there is again similar to previous meetings. For those who don't recall, the biggest issues or the biggest changes had to do with our margins, where our hydropower volume was greater than we expected going into 2017. That contributed the vast majority of that $54 million increase in our margins, although another significant effect was the HDP outage, which had the effect of contributing to our transmission margins as well. That outage was repaired and put back in service. The line was put back in service in November, so we're kind of back to normal with that line going forward. Our operating expenses, $35 million below budget. Some of that had to do with underspends in a variety of different areas. A deferral of some planned outage work at our power plants contributed $11 million, small underspend in CES, and some deferral of some maintenance projects at power plants and the like. There were other non-operating expenses. These are things like state programs or the North Country Power Discount Program, where there was some underspend to plan. There was, of course, the Nuclear Decommissioning Trust Fund that we talked about pretty much all of last year, that contributed about $8 million in this category as well. None of these variances were significant in terms of the percentage change. So 5% roughly was the amount of the variance in each of those categories. And again, we ended up being able to project and track those throughout the year. The asset write-down we've discussed before, that related to some replacement of equipment under our GE contract that we entered into late last year, whereby some of our equipment at the 500 megawatt power plant is being replaced with more efficient equipment that will save us money over the long run and on a present value basis. But some of the old equipment became essentially obsolete and is being written down as a result. So the total net income of $117 million is above our target. We try to target $75 or $80 million as our net income target. And our fixed charge coverage ratio, our debt service coverage ratio, was also well above our target for the year. So all of that is good. So I will take any questions about that, but I think all in all, the story is consistent, thank goodness, and the story is also very positive, and we're in good shape going into 2018. Any questions?
Anything else for Bob?
No,
We
great.
look forward to a new story.
More jokes, more...
No, well done. All kidding aside, as always.
Yeah,
Very
we're,
well
we're
done,
hoping
very
there
well
won't be a
managed.
drought, so we'll have the opposite of.
Great outcome. So, thank you very much. All right, Joe.
Okay, so sticking
The dart rate. Here
here we go. So, thank you, Chairman Colmel, trustees, and all the other attendees. I'll be very brief. This is just a summary of last year's measures. As you recall from our December meeting, all of our numbers weren't in for the year-end final. So this just really summarized the year-end final. There's no surprises here. The only adjustment we'll probably make is in the environmental incidents. We're probably going to put some more attention in that because we learned some remedial repairs we made on some of our R22 assets has improved our performance. So now we're going to put more attention in the system to keep a closer eye on our environmental and DART rate. I didn't take a kick at this horse yet, but yeah, it's something that we're very proud of, even though it is in the red, that we're good at. So mostly trips and falls. So the only other item I have really is an item for your approval. This is ongoing for our transmission LEM. You're very familiar with all the different things we're doing in TLEM. So this is just one of the next steps up in the Messina area. So the Transmission Life Extension and Modernization Program is an ongoing program that is managed in a phased approach. The scope of the contract award for construction at the St. Lawrence Switchyard includes replacement of 9 115 kilovolt circuit breakers, 43 disconnect switches, some strain bus, wave traps, and other ancillary equipment. The work is scheduled to commence this year and be completed in this particular scope in 2021. And the trustees have previously authorized capital funding for the work. So today we're just requesting the board to approve the 4-year construction contract award to O'Connell Electric in the amount of $10.4 million at the St. Lawrence Switchyard as part of the ongoing TLEM program. And I'll entertain any questions.
Had a chance to look at this in advance. Any questions from anyone?
I'd move it,
Judge.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, have a second?
Second.
Second. Any other questions, comments? Dennis, Tony? Otherwise, all in favor?
Good.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, if there's no other questions for utility operations, that's my report.
Okay, Joe, great job, you and the team. Well done. Keith, you're pinch hitting for Paul, who's,
Jury duty.
pardon me?
Jury duty, Paul.
Jury duty. He's not at the Super Bowl either. Okay, that's good.
Oh, you never know.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, trustees, Gil, and NYPA staff in attendance. Consistent with what Joe said, this is pretty much just a couple of tweaks from what was presented to you last month. With respect to customer usage, you see we're slightly below our target, and that's a result of demand-related variations due to weather, energy efficiency, and the typical year-to-year usage variations. With respect to generation, thanks to the great job that Joe and his team did, we've exceeded the target by 5%. And again, we continue to remain competitive in the marketplace. I'm going to jump to fuel prices first. They continue to be lower than anticipated due to the natural gas glut, and as you can expect, that's reflected in our electric prices, which are slightly below our target. Moving on to the customer piece, our customer investments exceeded our target, and that's really driven by the great work that the business development team did in 2017 feeding the pipeline. Our net revenues were slightly below our target, and that's mostly due to timing issues as we collect our fees during construction versus the development stages or phases of our energy efficiency projects. However, we will see and do anticipate a ramp up this year on those fees. With respect to operating expenses, we are below the budget, and we do have some lagging projects that we expect to address going forward in 2018. I'd be happy to take any questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
If you want to go back one slide.
Sure.
So customer usage, one of the variables that you mentioned was energy efficiency. And so that's going to, I would imagine, continue to exert sort of downward pressure on customer usage. So my guess is it's built into the budget long term, and we've got some analysis of that sort of going forward. But I think as a board, it might be helpful for us to see how the very projects we're funding to help make folks much more energy efficient have pressure on this aspect of our doing business.
Okay, definitely.
We do bake that into our forecast. Yes. So we anticipate that plus a safety factor.
Any other
Anything else?
questions?
Okay, you're gonna
One more. Carry on.
reservation power.
Reservation power. This item requests that the trustees approve 15 megawatts of preservation power to North Country Data Center Corp., which is planning to expand its blockchain computer services at the currently vacated Alcoa East facility in Messina, New York. The allocation would support the creation of 150 new jobs and a minimum investment of $165 million. NCDC is signing a long-term contract, a lease agreement with Alcoa for the entire property, and once the project is complete, it expects to handle the processing of 15% of the world's cryptocurrency business, also known as Bitcoin. Since several matters that need to be addressed in the contract for the sale of the allocation remain unresolved, we're not asking the trustees to approve the contract at this time. However, I will come back to you with a final contract form in the very near future. This item is submitted for your approval. I'd be happy to take any of your questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
I guess I'm not clear on why this is right for any action. As I understand cryptocurrency, I mean, we're not expecting a lot of people addition because that's sort of counter to what it does. It doesn't rely on a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of revenue, I'm not really sure how they would be contributing and falling under economic development. So I didn't quite understand why this is actually right now for us to take any action on and why we think that they will meet the qualifications for.
It's a great point, and we are building all those controls into the contract. However, this business is moving into that property, and and submitted an application. There are some hurdles that need to be gotten over. To your point, certainly with respect to the infrastructure of that site, who's responsible for substation operations, some transmission towers, so on and so forth. But this has sort of been a long, exaggerated process. We've been dealing with this business for some time, and we thought it would be appropriate to get behind this. 150 jobs in St. Lawrence County are significant, and there was some risk of relocating outside of New York State.
My understanding correct that, they're looking for, if I'm correct, they're looking at some commitment on the part of the Power Authority that if they go ahead with investing $165 million, we're going to reciprocate in some fashion by selling them
Yes,
this amount of
that's accurate.
power so that they can be assured that if they make the investment.
Yeah, and the amount of power that this business is looking to utilize is probably in excess of 200
It
megawatts.
would be significant.
Yes.
I mean, obviously,
Well,
because
the whole world of
Right.
blockchain
Yes.
world. I mean,
right, exactly, because they'll be using lots of computers, and their investment, it seems to me, to be in large part in buying computers, not necessarily investment
Right.
in.
I guess, do we know what the jobs are?
So the average wages and benefits are about $46K per year for these 150 employees, which is significant again in St. Lawrence County. What types of jobs? Data scientists, technicians, engineering, all of the above. Atypically, you see these jobs overseas versus here, and we thought that the commitment to the North Country for that amount of jobs is certainly significant and would be impactful. So we're trying to, again, to the judge's point, kind of make a commitment here for them to in turn.
I'm just not sure what the commitment is that we're being asked to make, since there's still a lot of work that needs to be, a lot of unanswered questions, it seems to me.
So at this point, to approve the allocation of 15 megawatts, which would fall under our modified contract template that I'll bring back before the board in the near future.
Or if the board needs more information, I mean, we can
I can
defer.
provide that and defer
this
to the next meeting if that's
board
appropriate.
meeting and have more in-depth briefing. I think what's probably relevant is how does this compare to other allocations in the area?
And
How are we going to respond? As a bit of the running diagram, I'm
Yep.
looking at Bob in terms of some of the back and forth, the level of inquiry and all the rest of that continues to accelerate.
There's
And
two,
how we establish a position and
two sets
respond.
of questions. One is, how do we feel about this type of,
Application.
this kind of
Right.
operations, kind of business,
Right.
as opposed to other forms of businesses that we might use our power to help encourage.
Right.
The second question is a procedural question, which I think you're asking. Which has to do with, is this right for approval yet, or are there so many conditions that we should just take it away and bring it back?
Yep.
That's a,
I get the North Country and Alcoa and Dead Space and all the rest. I get the the realities of that.
With respect to that question of whether this is the right, kind of operation, we've looked at data centers before. As a data center operation, this is creating far more jobs than any of the other applications we've seen, because to Keith's point, it's actually locating a lot of the jobs that you might find in Asia or elsewhere in North America in New York State. So in that respect, I think we're looking more favorably on this than any others of the applications we've seen to date that might constitute Bitcoin mining or blockchain processing or even data centers generally. So there is some distinction between this and some of the others. With respect to Bitcoin mining in general, I think we need to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, and just to follow up on Gil's point, the comparison here, 10 jobs per megawatt, what we're seeing is about a job per megawatt and about 1.3 million per megawatt in capital investment. So this far exceeds what we're seeing for other prospects that we've been dealing with, about a half dozen of them or more.
So it's 10 times.
In this region or process when we've looked at
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Well, other proposals.
Other proposals at this point, yeah.
As you're all suggesting, are anything but job intensive.
Right.
And so it's just a philosophical debate and discussion. So I'm not looking to get in your way. On the other hand, I want to ensure we take a comprehensive look here. So you're asking for authority to continue down the path.
Yes.
Which you don't typically ask for. So that's what I'm trying to understand.
I just didn't understand.
How much authority do you need versus bringing it back when you would otherwise typically bring it back? I'm not trying to push back. I'm trying to clarify. While we collectively, meaning you, are able to better articulate our overall posture and position in the world of blockchain and mining and all the rest of that, since there's a bit of a feeding frenzy that I'm even witness to as well in this area, and I'm sure it's much more for you guys.
So I'm certainly comfortable in coming back to the board with the contract and the allocation, and we'll work vigorously on getting this done sooner rather than later. So by the next trustee
I think
meeting.
we're all pleased here. There's disproportionate benefits, so we certainly don't want to send the wrong signals. But I'll stick with my feeding frenzy phrase. I mean, I think you guys would agree. There's a lot of inquiries here, and want to ensure that we've got our act together before we open the door. When we open the door, we're comfortable that we're able to consistently apply it.
Okay.
And if this is a leader and a leading candidate, that'll be a leader and a leading candidate. That's great, and we certainly want to express our support philosophically.
Great.
Does that work?
Yep.
Yes.
Is that okay? Not too uncomfortable?
Absolutely.
Okay. Does that work for you guys, everybody? Sure. All right. Super. Thanks a lot,
Thank you.
Keith.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Okay. Daniela,
Yes.
our New York State energy policy goals.
So good morning, Mr. Chairman and trustees and colleagues. So I'm just going to take the opportunity to talk to you a bit about the state energy goals. On January the 3rd, the governor in his state of state laid out his priorities and several initiatives for the state. So just some background. In 2014, the governor announced reforming the energy vision. It was launched and it was established as a framework for clean, resilient, and affordable energy systems for all New Yorkers. In 2016, the Clean Energy Standard was established, which required 50% of New York's electricity to come from renewable energy sources, such as wind and solar, by 2030. The governor also supported a 10-year, $5 billion clean energy fund, which was designed to leverage private sector investments, fuel clean energy markets, and deliver energy savings across the state. So in this year's State of the State, the governor talked about Charge New York 2.0. Charge New York was launched in 2013, and it's now on track to meet its target of 30,000 to 40,000 electric vehicles in the state of New York by the end of 2018. In order to make electric vehicles more competitive with gas-powered automobiles, the governor launched Charge New York 2.0 this year in the State of the State. And that will drive the build-out of electric vehicle charging infrastructure and promote additional zero-emission vehicles, known as ZEV, capable roadways and destinations in New York. He also announced that clean fuel corridors will be established so that by 2020, a ZEV traveling on New York's interstate system can be recharged at a location convenient to the driver. The state is also going to create an official designation for ZEVs, ZEV-ready businesses, and communities. And all of this is going to influence NYPA's programs and policies. That's why we're sharing this with you. He also announced an increase in offshore wind generation in the amount of 800 megawatts. That was announced. He also announced a wind master plan. That wind master plan was released 2 days ago, and that master plan will help to achieve a target of 2.4 gigawatts of offshore wind power by 2030, all in support of the 50% reduction in renewables by 2030. There'll be 2 solicitations in 2018 and 2019. The governor has committed $15 million to train the clean energy workforce of tomorrow and to develop port infrastructure to spur offshore wind industry growth. He also announced, he also tasked agencies with setting a efficiency target that will include a proposal for a new 2025 energy efficiency target through cost-effective implementation strategies and innovative approaches from both utilities and clean energy and the Clean Energy Fund. And this will help to accelerate progress towards the state's climate and clean energy goals as well. He also announced an increase in energy storage of 1,500 megawatts by 2025. It's estimated that that increase will result in the employment of over 30,000 New Yorkers. In addition to that, we have a reduction in greenhouse gases by 30% by 2030. In 2013, originally the governor led the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. That required states to reduce the cap on greenhouse gas emissions from power plants by 50% by 2020. So this initiative is going to help to further that goal. In his State of the State, the governor also spoke about the digitization of NYPA. NYPA is currently at the forefront of the transformation to digital utilities in the industry. We are a leader here, and we will continue to work on that path to develop new technologies, to deploy new monitoring systems for plants to make them more cost-effective and to reduce our operational risk and operating costs. So that's a summary of the energy goals that were outlined in the State Energy Plan. Any questions?
No, good.
Thank you.
You shared an announcement on the offshore wind
Yes, I did.
as recent as yesterday and the like, and I know you and the team look forward to playing a key role in enabling, accelerating, and
Absolutely.
making sure that agenda is achieved.
What's the status of the battery storage field?
So, in the State of the State, the governor announced a goal that by 2025 we will have 1,500 megawatts of battery storage installed, and using $200 million from the Green Bank to help finance and start that market. It reminds me of solar 5 years ago. You know, it's a technology that starting to have a beachhead, creating a beachhead, and the cost curve starting to go down much steeper than what people had anticipated. Just to let you know, for NYPA, we have installed one solar with battery microgrid at SUNY New Paltz, and so we're learning a lot about that. And we just announced a few days ago in SUNY in Delhi in the southern tier, we're going to be in cooperation with one of our co-op municipal customer. We're going to be installing a 2 megawatt system with battery in that. So it's starting to take hold, and NYPA, I anticipate, will play a critical role in as a catalyst and as a test bed for battery storage going forward.
Because I think it's accelerating. To your comparison with solar, the time frame with solar accelerating obviously has been very good over the last 5 years because as costs have gone down, battery will be much faster. I think, and I think Puerto Rico showed an example of why battery can be very useful. So I expect to see sort of leaps and bounds in comparison to how solar.
Yeah, I agree, because battery storage, the innovation is really happening with our smart devices, and then cars, and then utility scale. So because smart devices are ubiquitous, Trustee McKibben is right that the technology development is much faster.
Okay, in addition to Cyber and Physical Security Committee, we also had an Audit Committee meeting earlier today, and we have one important action item that comes from that discussion.
Yes, we do, Mr. Chairman. And the Audit Committee met this morning and considered the candidacy of Angela Gonzalez for Senior Vice President of Internal Audit. As the board knows, we worked closely with Angela over the last 5 months or so, and she has led the department on an interim basis. We've also been impressed with her work during that period and the efforts of her staff to complete the 2017 plan, close out open audit recommendations, and develop the 2018 plan. Her 100-day plan for the department is sound and was presented to the Audit Committee this morning. After careful consideration, the Audit Committee recommends the appointment of Angela Gonzalez as Senior Vice President, Internal Audit, to the full board for your consideration. I would so move it.
I'll second.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Otherwise, all in favor of Angela Gonzalez as our new Senior Vice President and Internal Auditor, say aye. Aye. I won't even ask if there's any opposed. Motion carried. Angela, congratulations. And on that note, I'm very pleased to close this meeting unless there's any other matters to come before us, and there isn't. Thank you very much for your time and attendance today. Dennis, Tony, appreciate your efforts from a long distance to participate and stay with us. We'll all be back together here in White Plains in a little less than 2 months. I think March 20th is the date of our next meeting. And with that, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Have a second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion carried. Have a great day, everyone. Safe travels. Enjoy the sunshine. And may the better team win on Sunday. Thanks very much, everyone.
My team's not playing, so.
So-
Very diplomatic.